Goldera here with us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let me introduce you to our audience. We are talking to Goldera Surles, who has a radio show called The Golden Hour and a podcast, the Influencer Podcast. And she's graduated with 2 degrees in 4 years, Bachelor in Communication with Media Communication and a Bachelor in Spanish and Hispanic Literature. She's an NCBCA All-Academic and NTCA Scholar Athlete. She is a bowler and has, she's gotten involved with so many different things. It's difficult to get through all of those, but an all-tournament team with the Vikings Classic, placing second in singles at the WCCA shootouts, all events champion, Metro Classics. So in terms of bowling, an absolute legend.
Highly appreciated.
Thank you for joining the podcast. I also want to make sure you have everyone's aware of Goldera's experience store on the SPRTER app, where she's providing experiences, personalized Zoom calls, all of those awesome ways to connect with her and learn from her. But walk me through it. How did it all start? How did you decide, hey, bowling, that's really what I'm going to go all in on?
So I actually have been bowling since I could pretty much pick up a bowling ball. So both my parents, my grandparents, pretty much my whole family were bowlers. And so I was told when I was around 3 years old, about to turn 4, my dad had started teaching me how to bowl. And I was able to pick up a bowling ball. The lightest bowling ball that you can use in the sport of bowling, I believe, is 8 pounds. So I was able to kind of start playing around with that. And from there, at first, it's kind of weird. At first, I was really just bowling for fun. It was just something that my parents told me to do. And I was doing it because I enjoyed it. And then we got to a point where I entered like late middle school into like early high school, where I started joining like junior leagues, because if you placed a certain place in the junior leagues, they could give you scholarship money. So now we're thinking more for like college and high school and ways to pay for school. And it wasn't until I want to say I was a junior to senior in high school when they were like, okay, are you going to go to school? Are you going to go to college for bowling because you can get scholarship money? And I'm like, I had no intentions of going to college for bowling. Like, that was nowhere in my plans. I had no ideas about it. And so it was something that I kind of had to start considering. And I just felt like at first I wasn't really going to be prominent enough, because I feel like the people that know that they want to go to school for bowling, they start earlier than me. And I feel like I didn't start taking it serious like everyone else. So I didn't really think anybody was going to recruit me. And then a couple of teams actually reached out to me while I was in high school, like, hey, I want you to check out our campus. I went on a couple of tours, and then that's how I ended up at Malloy College, which is actually now Malloy University. And so that's how I ended up there for 4 years. And now I'm at Merrimack College in my graduate year, still bowling and getting my master's degree.
That's a fantastic story. I mean, are you currently making use of the COVID year, the 5th year?
Yes, definitely using it for sure, as much as I possibly can.
So does that mean you got a full free ride out of bowling? Or
So
a lot of reduction?
Yeah, it was kind of weird for me. So when I went to Malloy University, Malloy University is a Division II college. So they don't typically give like 100% full rides, but they can give you a decent amount or partial. And so at Malloy University, I got a mixture of an athletic scholarship and an academic scholarship. Because in high school, I was in the top 13% of my class. So my grades, definitely helped out a little bit in terms of academic money. And then when I got to my 5th year, I was actually worried that I wasn't going to be able to really go anywhere that I wanted to for my 5th year, because usually when you're a grad student, some schools can't really give you athletic money as a grad student because the school has intended it specifically for undergraduate students.
Yeah.
So I actually have no athletic money as of right now from Merrimack College. However, I was able to do something different at Merrimack College. Merrimack College offers fellowships or also like graduate assistantships. And I work for the Office of Residence Life as a graduate residence director with a 100% tuition waiver. So
Nice.
that is how I was able to go to Merrimack College.
That's fantastic. So bowling got you fully through college, and
For sure.
that's awesome. It's one of those sports where you know, like everyone's talking about the footballs or the volleyballs
Yes.
of this world, but you know, like, hey, bowling is it's one of those sports that we've all been bowling before.
Mm-hmm.
But when I bowl, and it's very different to, I would assume, when you
For
bowl.
sure.
Can you walk me through some of that training that you do as a in a bowling team?
Yeah, so bowling training is one that's quite interesting because I just feel like if there are people who just bowl for fun, there are so many components when you're a competitive bowler that people don't consider or realize. Some of the terms are like kind of technical, but I'm gonna do my best to just break down some things
Hmm.
for the people. So one of them is like lane patterns. So if you go to a bowling alley and you're just bowling for fun, sometimes you're probably bowling on something called a house shot because every bowling alley you're supposed to put some type of oil on the lanes. Some bowling alleys have none. So
Okay.
if you see your ball hooking like crazy, it probably has no oil.
Ah,
Um,
that's what I'm going to blame next time I don't bowl well.
exactly, exactly. But in collegiate bowling, we have different patterns, and we call them sport shots because we're sport. And so the lane patterns can be different feet. It could be a different amount of volume on the patterns, and that's why you'll also see a lot of competitive bowlers, buy different bowling balls versus someone in a bowling alley where there are bowling balls provided for them. They just pick it up and grab it. But as
Hmm.
a competitive bowler, you have to have your own bowling ball and your own bowling equipment because there might be a certain way that you throw the bowling ball, like your wrist positioning, how you hold the bowling ball, if you stay under the bowling ball, if you have a high axis rotation, which makes it spin, if you have a low axis rotation, which doesn't make it really do anything.
Yeah,
So
that's
just
me.
so there's just so many factors. And in terms of our training, I say like we also work out. I think a lot of people don't realize that like bowlers work out. Like we still have to have the stamina. For those who've never watched at least a female collegiate bowling team bowl, I'll even give an example. Or even this weekend. This weekend we have a competition in Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
And we have to bowl 5 games each day. So we're pretty much standing on our feet because a game itself usually takes about an hour and some change. So really, let's say an hour and a half. And then you multiply that by 5, we're talking plus 6 hours of just standing on your feet and bowling. And so you have to have the stamina because anybody else would get tired and be like, I don't want to be on my feet anymore. So we work out, we have strength and conditioning, we train with drills to kind of throw the ball how our coach wants us to throw the ball and throw it confidently. And with our practice personally, we always start with drills and things we need to practice, and then we end with competition because if we're evidently going to be competing, we should always end a practice with competition. So that's pretty much how our like training currently looks like.
That's interesting because when I bowl two rounds and my arm starts to hurt, and you know, so I can totally see that when you bowl 5 games, that is a pretty intense day.
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense from the training perspective, and it seems like there's a lot of tactics involved that the regular person doesn't understand or doesn't even think about.
For sure.
That's interesting. Now, when you decided, okay, well, let's start. Let me go to commit to Molloy College, or now Molloy University. What was your decision to go with them versus some of the other universities that try to recruit you?
So for one thing that I liked about Malloy University was the close knitness of the campus. Everything was very close by. Like a lot of the other colleges that I had went to, they were universities and they were huge. And
Mm,
I personally, I don't want to be in a big space. Um, I needed things to be closer. So like for my entire 4 years of Malloy, my dorm room to my farthest class was no more than a 5-minute walk.
Nice.
So it's like, if I wake up late for classes, bowling practice, or I'm just tired from homework, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I have to walk 15 minutes to my next class. And then like the cafeteria was right there as well. So on those cold days, it wasn't like I had to travel all the way across campus. So close-knitness was definitely a big factor for me personally. I didn't want to have to, take a shuttle bus to my class or anything. And on top of that, my entire 4 years of undergraduate school, I did not have a car on campus. So I need that close-knitness because how else was I going to get around? I think another thing, I just knew that Malloy had a lot of things to offer me, which is why I ended up graduating with so many different accolades, because I had so many honor societies that I could be a part of, so many different clubs and organizations that I was a part of, and also the close-knitness, not just of the campus, but of the classes. Like my classes never had more than 25 people.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then even in my senior year, as you're more focused on your concentration and like your capstone, somebody was calling me. My classes got smaller and smaller. So my senior year, I had for my Spanish major where we had a capstone, there was two of us in the class.
Wow.
And then for communications, there were 8 of us, and it makes me feel better because academically I excel, but I also have a lot of questions. And if I feel like I cannot connect with my professor and talk to them one-on-one, that's hard for me. Like I want to make sure that I'm not just a number in the class. I want to have that one-on-one connection. So when I have class questions, you're not just looking at me like, who is this? So.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's nice. Now, again, we talk about all of the different sport teams generally on campus, and now bowling. Like, wait, what? Yeah, I'm on the bowling team. How is that? What's this? How's that perceived, and how does that? Like, yeah, I'll take you on and on the alley. Like, are people challenging you, actually thinking they have a chance sometimes, or?
It's kind of weird. I feel like it depends on where you go to school. Like, I feel like Malloy University versus Merrimack, I have 2 different perspectives. So Malloy University, it was never really I'm going to challenge you or bowl against you. It was we have a bowling team. Like we exist. So people didn't really challenge us like, oh yeah, we could go bowling. It was always, we have a bowling team. For all 4 years, it was always, we have a bowling team. Whereas at Merrimack, sometimes it's still, we have a bowling team, but also Merrimack College is in the process of building a bowling alley on the campus. It's actually, it should be officially done by, I want to say January, like the beginning of January. And so a lot of the students know that a bowling alley being built on campus. And a lot of them know that I'm on the team. So they'll be like, hey, Goldie, when the bowling alley opens, like, I want to play you. Or can we watch you? It's more of, can we watch you? Closest tournaments. I think I got thrown off one day because I went into my class on a Wednesday and my professor literally walks up to me and goes, so I have a couple of people that want to watch you bowl at a tournament. Like, where's the closest one? And I'm just like, I just got here. Why are we talking to me about bowling? And I appreciated it, but it wasn't the first thing that I expected just getting to class. So I think it depends on where you go to college or just how people perceive bowling. I actually like how Merrimack College perceives bowling and how people like to have a conversation more about it. Like, people are always congratulating us when they see us beat a team. Like 2 weeks ago at our tournament, we beat the number 2 team in the country for women's collegiate bowling. And everybody's like, good job. And I'm like, oh,
congratulations.
Yeah. And I don't like, we got that a lot at Malloy. And so those are some of the things that I appreciate.
That's very cool. Now, when you think back on you're still in your career. I don't want to say, think back on your career like you're making it sound like you're retired, but think back on the last few years. What's some of the most memorable bowling career moment thus far?
Ooh, oh wow. One of my most memorable bowling career moments. I think it was the time that there was a time where I made all tournament team, which is basically like you having the highest average of the tournament. That was definitely one. And I feel like there's another one. And it's so weird to have to think about this because sometimes all I can remember is like our COVID year and how
Mm.
everything that got cut short, because I feel like the year that we caught, like the world caught COVID, that was going to be our winning year at Malloy. And so sometimes like that's all I can think about because we just had such a good team, and like we had a good team all 4 years, but I feel like that was a team that was extremely competitive and you could tell that they wanted to win. But I think the most memorable moment for me, I was a freshman and my school was playing Fairleigh Dickinson. Fairleigh Dickinson is one of the top teams in the country. They have multiple rings for NCAA women's bowling. And my coach decided to put me in the lineup as a freshman, which I never thought that he would do. And we beat them.
Okay.
And I think at that moment I was like, whoa, like I was part of the win. Like it's one thing to say you're part of the win just because you're on the team and you won, but to say that you were actually bowling against this team and you beat them, it's like, wow, like I was actually part of the win. And so I think those are my more memorable moments.
That's interesting. And it almost seems like, yes, I've arrived then as a freshman.
Yeah. It was like, oh my gosh, like I'm here. Like I know I've been on the team, but like I was bowling against them. Like I'm in the lineup, I'm bowling everybody else, and it just felt good.
That's awesome. Now, when we talk about sports and we see role models, and I would assume that your parents being former bowlers, they're probably part of that. But are there some role models in your life that you looked up to in terms of bowlers that you're like, yeah, I want to do what she or he is doing?
Absolutely. The first one that I could think off the top of my head is Gigi. Her name is Jasmine Gigi Mason. We all call her Gigi. She is an African American female pro bowler. I was actually just with her not too long ago. She came to one of our practices for Mary Mac. That girl, I look up to her so much, not just as a bowler, but as a person. She has started her own foundation. She has a brand called Got Game, and we are able to buy apparel from her. And I think the biggest thing is that she started an organization called Black Girls Can Bowl Too, because
Hmm.
I also feel it's hard enough that bowling itself is already an underrepresented sport, but being an underrepresented minority in an underrepresented sport also sometimes makes a bigger effect. And so she does a big thing about highlighting us as bowlers, like African American female bowlers. And she even reposted the fact that I was going to be on this podcast today. And I was
Oh, very cool.
like, I love her to pieces. And so that's definitely like my biggest role model, because she's also very authentic. She will let you know on the days that she's bowling bad just as much as she'll let you know about the days that she's bowling good, because sometimes you have to see the bad and not only the good, or you're going to get so when you see the bad, when you realize like it comes with the sport of bowling, it comes with it. And then I think the other person that I could think of is Kelly Kulik, who is also a pro female bowler. She's from the same city as me, Union, New Jersey, which I absolutely love her. She used to coach my mom, and she's just a sweetheart. And she is one of my role models because she reminds me that I have to stay calm when it comes to bowling. Because the other portion of bowling that I don't think people realize is that it might not be a contact sport. Like nobody can stop me from bowling, but that's the problem. Nobody can stop me from bowling except me, because it's
Mm.
such a mental game. And as soon as your mental is messed up, your entire bowling game is messed up. And so she just reminds me that you have to kind of keep your composure and stay calm. If you're not striking, if you're not sparing, stay calm and just figure it out.
That's interesting. You've touched on two aspects in here that I want to follow up on. The first one is um, being underrepresented in the sport of bowling. Now, if I picture bowling, what I see is, yeah, around the nation. Oftentimes, I would guess white male
Mm-hmm.
without knowing bowling too well, but I would guess white male.
Mm-hmm.
That's how. Is it changing? Has it changed? What needs to change? And how does it feel? How does it feel? Is it changing? What needs to change? And where are we going? And how do we get there?
I I think it's changing at an under pro level. So not amateur, not pro, but like right in the middle. Like if you go to a certain bowling center, you'll see that your top bowlers are people, most of the time, like a mix of not only white male, but people of color as well. However, on the pro side, on the people that you see on television, it's not there yet. And I don't know if that's going to change. And the reason that I say this is because as time goes on, you start to realize that there are a lot of good bowlers out there of BIPOC and everything in between, but they don't necessarily want to be pro bowlers. And so you may not see them on your TV screens. You may have to go into your local bowling alley and just watch them bowl in a league and see who are the names in shining lights. Like honestly, I loved my dad to pieces. He's a very good example of this. Like my dad was known for having like double digit 300 games, which is a perfect game in bowling. And if you went into certain bowling alleys and you went to certain places, you knew his name, but someone on like you wouldn't know him from like TV because he didn't want to be on TV. He didn't want to be part of the pros. And so I think in that aspect, I don't think pro wise it's going to change too much. I think in terms of the female bowlers, that's also, I don't think it's going to change too much either, especially in female bowlers of color, because I don't think a lot of people want to go pro. And I think there's this, going pro in bowling is so much different than going pro in football or baseball. You know, it's like if you go pro in football, you get an automatic salary. Even if you are just on the bench, you get an automatic salary. If you've never played an NFL game a day in your life, you get it. In pro bowling, you have to win. You have to win tournaments. You do not get your money and your salary just from participating. And sometimes that is a lot mentally for a lot of people. So they'll compete at certain pro bowling tournaments, but you won't know them for going pro.
So it's almost more like golf, where you need a lot of money in order to compete.
Yes.
And it also sounds like it's a little bit of an old boys club.
In a way, it is. In a way, it is. I will say that the women are definitely growing in the sport of bowling for sure. The amount of women that I have seeing on TikTok and meeting in person as I go to tournaments is absolutely amazing. And especially women of color, which warms my heart, because I also feel like the reason I didn't take bowling in college or wanting to go to college for bowling serious for so long is because I didn't see anybody like me. And I think representation in any sport is so important, because why would I want to do something? I don't see anybody that looks like me. And I was so happy when I found Gigi and I found out who she was and everything that she does and everything that she has come up with. And that's kind of the route that I want to go down, as not just being known for someone specifically for bowling, but known for what I've done for the sport of bowling and for the other people that are interested in the sport of bowling. Like her goal is not to be the greatest bowler, but to grow the sport of bowling in itself, because it's not people, like you said, a lot of people don't understand the tactics and everything else that goes along with bowling. It's just looked at as a pastime.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely see that. That would have been my follow-up as well, in terms of, do you see yourself as a role model for the next generation? As you said, you've had someone, you could see it, like I can see it, I can do it. Is that something that you see yourself as part of a role model, and what does that mean to you?
I would 100% love to be a role model for the sport of bowling. And I'm also going to admit that that is going to take time for me personally. And the reason that I say this is from my past 4 to 5 years of bowling, I have always had a confidence issue in my bowling. And there are certain things that I did not fully pursue because I didn't feel like I was a good enough bowler. Like I would literally, I think I told one of my friends this the other day. I told him, sometimes I feel like I'm not a bowler, I just bowl. And I think it's a confidence thing, and sometimes it that can stem from the type of coaches that you have in college, the type of coaches that you have in high school, the type of people that support you. Support goes a super duper long way. And so I think I'm getting to that point where I'm trusting myself as a bowler again, to where I can be a role model. And I want to be a role model for people, once again, not as a perfect bowler, but just showing them that you don't have to be the greatest bowler in the world to be a role model. I want to show people that, hey, this is me, this is where I came from, this is where I'm going, and I want you to build more confidence in yourself as a bowler. And this could be for any gender, this could be for any racial ethnicity. I just want to show people that, like, if this is what you want to do, this is what you can do. It doesn't matter if someone tries to tell you that you can't, or if they try to put you down. You got this. And I think that's the type of role model that I would like to be.
That's a very awesome role model to aspire to. You mentioned earlier the mental side with one of your role models. Now you touched on that mental side again, as in, hey, maybe the confident. Like, how do you mentally prepare for a bowling game, and what are some tips and tricks that you can pass on?
How I mentally prepare for a bowling game, it's actually different now. And when I was in high school and my 4 years at Malloy, right before a tournament, I would play like meditation music in my ear, because anybody who knows me knows that, like, I love music. And so I would kind of use the music to calm my nerves down, because I get very tense and I have anxiety. So sometimes I just get very anxious about bowling tournaments, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to bowl good. I have to bowl good. And so now this year, having a new coach, understanding his dynamic, I don't have to do too much to mentally prepare for a tournament. And I prefer that. I don't want to have to do 50 different tactics to mentally prepare myself, because then that means I feel like I'm not ready.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do something slight, something calm. I warm up with my team. My mom usually comes to my tournaments, so I'll talk to her for a little bit. And I just kind of like, I stay loose. And I think I just stay loose. I stay calm. I stay energetic with my team. And I think that helps me mentally prepare more than anything else. Or I'll play like a certain song. Instead of the meditation music, I'll play like an uplifting song. I don't even have any examples at this moment, but just something upbeat, no sad music,
Mm-hmm.
something that
That's sad music.
And I think that's how I mentally prepare. And I think just knowing that your team has your back. Like, sometimes the factors to help you mentally prepare aren't always you by yourself. I mean, if I was bowling by myself, by all means, it would be all on me. But this is a team sport. In college bowling, it's a team sport. And so I think just knowing that I have teammates that, like, if they see me bowling bad, they're not going to follow my lead and just start bowling bad with me. They're like, all right, you missed the spare. Don't worry. I got you. I'm going to pick it up. And I think the support helps more than anything else.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense, but it's always, you are understanding that bowling is a team sport where you're still competing on your own. You're still, as you said, you don't have an opponent trying to slide tackle you, whatever, but it's you and the alley and the ball, but it's part of a team, and that dynamic is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think one thing I will say is, sometimes if you don't necessarily mentally prepare before an entire tournament, you can mentally prepare before you throw the bowling ball. Most people, they have a pre-shot routine. And if you watch enough pro bowling, you'll see and learn everyone's pre-shot routines. I know a girl who, like, kind of gives a quick, like, kiss to her bowling ball, and that's her pre-shot routine. I know somebody who like scrapes the bottom of their foot to make sure that they're going to slide correctly, and that's their pre-shot routine. My pre-shot routine, I have tendencies where I lose focus. And so my pre-shot routine consists of me saying all the things that I have to do. So I'm like, okay, stand, look at your target, sit, throw the ball. And it's literally just me talking myself through the shot. And that's my pre-shot routine.
Okay, now that's interesting. As I know, I understand the, I guess, pre-game routines from the soccer field, and
yes,
there's a lot of superstition in soccer. Do you have superstition in bowling?
I think the only superstition in bowling is, like, saying that somebody's going to get a certain score, or like, it's not usually with strikes, but, like, let's say someone's on a perfect game. And a perfect game is a 300. You do not say that they're going to get a 300 out loud. Like, you just let them throw the ball. Let them throw the ball. Don't say, like, oh my gosh, they're about to shoot a 300, or they might be able to shoot a 300. No. Like, even if you go back and watch old videos of the championships of our conference, which I was just watching the other day, two girls won a 300 pace. And the reporters and the announcers that were doing the game, they would never say the number. They were just like, yeah, she's on the road to a complete game.
Oh, okay.
They would never say.
So it's almost like jinxing it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Now, one thing you mentioned earlier is like this is where I am right now, and this is where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going? What are the next steps in your bowling career, in your career? What is the next steps? What's that looking like?
I don't think I want to necessarily become only known for being a pro female bowler, but I would love to compete in some pro female tournaments to get the experience. There's also like underground bowling leagues, and that's something that I was also interested in joining. Yeah, it's very.
That sounds fun.
If you literally look up on Instagram or TikTok, like UBA bowling, it's all over the place. There's teams everywhere, like literally everywhere. And then just bowling in a couple of regular bowling leagues. My mom is like waiting for the day I graduate so that I can bowl in a bowling league with her. Waiting. Literally waiting. And then just eventually I do eventually, God willing and able, want to start a foundation in memory of my dad. He passed away in 2020, and he's one of the people, along with my mother, who helped, get me in bowling. And anyone who knew my dad, like, if you walked into the local bowling alley where we live, you knew who my father was. If you didn't know me, you knew my father. And I just want to give to the people in the way that he gave to people. He never had to worry about someone, oh, you got to pay me back, or he just gave. He just gave, and he did what he had to do for the bowling community. And so I want to do something in memory of him that sympathizes and relates and coincides with everything that he did.
My condolences, but I mean it's positive. You're taking it in a positive direction, as in building and using it as a positive channel for change in terms of the foundation. And I think that is it's very honorable of you as well. And hopefully we'll see you and hopefully see you on the pro bowling circuit, even though I know you said it's difficult to get in, but underground bowling sounds actually more fun than pro bowling.
It kind of is. I actually went to an entire underground bowling tournament back in this past summer, like in August. And they had the championships for it in Delaware, and it was fun. It's just, you get to see all the people that you don't usually see that are in your same state, because you're all going here. Like, people that I didn't get to see because I was in New Jersey and they were in Connecticut, we're all just here, we're all together. And like, bowling can bring people together, and I think that's another thing that people have to realize. It's like, although it's a competition sport, like, it can be very unified.
That's a really good, I don't want to say closing statement, because I will want to ask you a question following up, but that is a very good closing statement. We do finish with our question on what's your advice to the next generation of bowlers?
My advice to the next generation of bowlers. Oh my gosh, I wish I thought on this one. My next advice to the new generation of bowlers would be, I might ramble my words a little bit, because I was going to try to shorten it, but I'm just going to say what's on my heart, is don't let anybody stop you from bowling except you. I feel like with the sport of bowling, or any sport, or in general, sometimes we stop doing it because we compare ourselves, and comparison is the thief of joy. I used to want to stop bowling because I felt like I wasn't as good as the next person. I wanted to stop bowling because I felt like my coach didn't trust in what I was able to do and my capabilities. And so there's no point in me trying to do collegiate bowling or any type of bowling, because no one's going to trust me as a bowler. But that decision should only belong to me. And if I ever decided to stop picking up a bowling ball, it should be because I don't love the sport anymore, and not because I let a coach or a family member or a friend or a teammate or whoever make me put down that bowling ball.
That's a very strong closing statement, and I appreciate that advice to the next generation. Thank you so much for joining the SPRTER podcast. Want to reiterate, check out the Experience store. Follow her on the SPRTER app. We'll make sure to link you out and follow along on all of the socials. And thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of the semester.
Thank you.
And with making it into that pro bowling that you don't even know if you want to make it into. But we need more role models who are awesome. So I have both of my fingers crossed.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining. Have a great day.
You as well.
Thanks. Bye.